You wanna be I, baby, you can't see I, D-I-V-I-N-I-T-Y. Somebody say ow. D-I-V-I-N-I-T-Y. You wanna be I, baby, you can't see I, D-I-V-I-N-I-T-Y. Somebody say ow. So that's it.
I love it.
That was a really cool bass line because that was the bass line I played when I went to Victor Wooten's bass camp for the very first time. And it was the first song that I ever wrote on bass guitar as a rapper and a bassist. And it was the only song I had. And I went to Victor Wooten's bass camp because, of course, I wanted to become a better bass player. And why not go see one of the greatest bass players in the world?
Absolutely.
So when you go to his bass camp, I hope I don't spoil it for anybody, but when you go, the first night, you have to introduce yourself by playing your bass guitar. And so you're so nervous.
I can imagine.
Oh my God, everybody's so scared. And I asked him, well, can I rap and play? And he said, well, is that what you do? I was like, yeah, that's what I do. So he said, sure, you can do whatever you want to do. So I started playing that bass line and
Killer.
So that was the first thing that you played? Is that the first thing that Victor Wooten heard you play?
yes, that was the first thing Victor heard me play, and I was like, I drop bombs like torpedoes. I can't even remember the rap. I drop bombs like torpedoes. That's what I like mosquitoes. It's something, baby, get that, I don't remember. And then, we came to the hook, and that's so funny because the whole camp, that everybody had that song in their head. When everybody would
Everyone's
see
going
me, they would
around,
say,
yeah,
V-I-N-I-T-Y. So it's really funny.
That's amazing.
And then shortly after, Victor asked me if I would go on tour with him and open up his show. And that's how I would
That's
open
killer.
up the show.
I was going to ask you about that because you went technically as a student, with the rest of the ground, then ended up touring with the legend himself. That must have been an out of body experience.
It was. I remember just when I got the call. I remember after he asked me if I would go on tour with him. I was on a phone that was in my kitchen at the time, and I just laid on the floor and said, "What? You want me to go on tour with you?" And he's like,
bass player.
Yeah. Well, he takes another bass player out with him.
Yeah, he does.
Right.
Because he likes to solo, and you always got to have somebody holding down the groove.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. It was so weird because I became a part of the Victor Wooten band.
Right.
And I didn't know that I was a part of his band.
Mm.
All the years I toured with Victor, I didn't realize I was in his band.
Shit, I'm in
I
the
was
Victor Wooten band.
Yeah, I was just thinking, hey, he's taking me on tour with him.
I'm like his mascot.
Yeah, like something weird. And so, I would every tour they'd say, we're going out again, and I would ask, am I going? And I never would ask Victor. I would ask Anthony, am I gonna go too? And he was like, yeah, you're in the band.
So
Really?
did they ask you at the camp when you were there, or was it a phone call after?
It was a phone call after, and I left the camp feeling a little bit down actually because I walked up to Victor and I asked him if he gave private lessons, and then of course he doesn't have time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, but I will give you my email address.
Right.
So he sort of discreetly wrote his email address down. And I sent him this email, telling him thank you for the camp and, how excited I was to have been a part of it because the camp is magical. It really is. It's a magical experience. And, I didn't hear anything back from him. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, that was, the experience. But he did tell me that Reggie gave lessons. So I think I got Reggie's information too. But it was a couple of days after I sent that email that he actually called. I think maybe he asked for they had my number on file or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he called. This is Victor Wooten. What?
So what was some of the songs that you like to play with Victor live? Apart from that one, is there any others that spring to mind that stand out to you? Do you think that was great when we were playing that song live?
With Vic, we used to play a lot of different songs. I would actually have a moment in Victor's show where I would get to perform my own songs, and that was really incredible because for an artist to say,
So
okay,
great.
I'm going to take a break and give you the stage so that people can get to know you and see you, because what I was doing with the rapping and playing, he was really into it, and he thought that it was something that people should see and experience. So he would give me that moment to do that, and I had to actually come up with songs to. Yeah, I didn't have many songs at the time. I just didn't know. But I did develop the Rebel song out of touring with Victor.
Right.
And it's kind of. Some people are born to lead and others are born to follow. Some people are born to spit it, others are born to swallow. Some are born to make the rules, others are born to break it. Some people are born to dish it, others are born to take it. I was born to make this better, whenever, however, never will I. Let them take me, let them make me, cause I know it's a lie. I'm a rebel when I'm right and say monsters aside. If you look into my eyes, what you see, the strongest weapon, me in the booth, spitting the truth. The trouble you is falling in need to prepare a shoe. All you want is loot, pollute it through and execute anybody if they cause a dispute. But screw you, we'll take it to the streets, cause we all bear arms. Take it to the police, cause they only spread harm. Deep in communities where the sun ain't warm. In the midst of the storm, we resist when they bomb. I'm a rebel, won't you put it to this metal, baby? It ain't no other who can bring it on this level, baby. I go to war every day with the devil, baby, cause I'm a rebel, baby. I'm a rebel, baby. So that was like one of the techniques that I kind of learned from Victor.
I was going to ask you about the picking. Did you pick that up at the camp?
I think that Victor usually does a
How do you
thumb.
do the triplet thing? Yeah.
He does this really well. He does usually a thumb hammer pluck. But I, for some reason, when I started playing it, I would do a hammer thumb pluck. So
you hammer on first.
I'm doing, I'm hammering on first with my left hand, and then thumping with my thumb and plucking.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my interpretation of what I heard him doing, and it kind of became like a signature
Sounds
thing.
great.
It's so fun. When I show kids that's when they want to start playing bass.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, as opposed to here, play some root notes.
Like that. I don't want to play that. It's cool. It's boring. But when I play that, they want to play bass. So
you're obviously really well known for your bass playing and rapping at the same time, which leads us on to the I Only Rock Hip Hop project that you've got going on just now. Can you describe for anyone that doesn't know what that is, what that entails?
Well, the I Only Rock Hip Hop was really my motto, the way I lived. I grew up in a time when hip hop music was really positive, and it was really empowering to a generation of people who didn't have a voice and who felt, unempowered and uninspired. So I grew up listening to KRS-One and the Roots, and I used to learn all the Slick Rick songs, and I grew up as an MC. I didn't grow up as a bass player.
Oh, right, okay.
So I didn't start playing bass till I went to college, but hip hop was so prevalent in my life that it was like I only rock hip hop. Rock being a verb.
Mm-hmm.
I live it, I speak it, I talk it. My slang is all hip hop. The way I dress, the way I carry myself.
I am it.
Yeah, I am hip hop. My generation is the hip hop generation. So, with I Only Rock Hip Hop, I started getting into rock music when I started playing bass guitar, and so then it became something else. I only rock hip hop. I do this rock hip hop mashup. Where I can be super aggressive and loud and rah 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 and have a bunch of fun on stage. So it's just sort of my motto, but it also translated into I Only Rock Hip Hop, which is an event that I do. It's a live hip hop karaoke event, and it's fun because it gives me an opportunity to play some of the hip hop songs that I grew up listening to, and sometimes I think that there is a disconnect between the audience and the performer, and so the I Only Rock Hip Hop experience is one where the audience and the performer mesh, and the audience, people from the audience actually come on stage to perform with the band. So we play some of your favorite hip hop songs, Gin and Juice from,
We have the list.
the list.
We're like, oh my god, what a list it is.
It's so much fun, so those are some of my favorite songs, and some, some people also, said, why don't you put this on the list? And so people get up on stage and they get to perform those songs. Because you're in your car and those songs come on, and you're like, I know this. And
brilliant. It must be so much fun, like just random people coming up and doing their own interpretations of this song,
and it can be really funny too.
And
sometimes I have to jump in and help out with the lyrics.
Right.
So it's a really good time.
Yeah, it must be. I've watched it online and it looks like a great night. It doesn't look like you're going to watch a band. You're part of the experience, like you said. There's not that disconnect.
Yeah.
But what are some of your favourite tracks to play then of all of these?
Amazing
One of my favorite songs, I mean, not just to play, but just the energy of it, is the Eminem song. I mean, I don't play anything. You lose yourself.
Yeah.
I don't play anything. I just play D.
The whole
But that song was so powerful. I mean, The lyrics were so powerful because we feel like that as musicians and as artists, that every time we step up on stage or every time we perform, we have to lose ourselves in the moment and in the music. Yeah. And you only get that one shot to show people who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I live when I go on stage. It's like, this is it.
You can see it in your performance. It's awesome.
I have so much fun. It's really the only time where I'm not in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the only time when I feel absolutely free.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, I'm not analyzing anything, I'm not distracted by anything.
Yeah.
I'm really just all the way present.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to talk about Beyonce. How you got that gig, how that came to fruition.
The Beyonce gig, I got the gig because I auditioned for the gig. Now I wasn't gonna audition originally because I didn't think that it was real, you know, that she was really looking for anybody. I mean, it's Beyonce.
Yeah.
She can call anybody she wants to play whatever she wants, whenever, you know, she wants. So, people were calling me from all over the country, because I toured with Victor. So I started getting these phone calls. Actually, I think maybe I heard it on the radio, but I sort of ignored it because I was thinking,
very surreal,
right.
yeah.
I already knew that. You know, I was like, Rhonda Smith is going to be playing bass on that gig.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are they going to call me for? And then people started calling me from all over the country. I mean, just random people that I've met all over the years with Victor. People I hadn't talked to in forever.
Did you hear the audition?
Yeah, hey, Beyonce, did you know Beyonce is having an audition for an all-female band, and you're the only person I can think of to play the bass in the band. And I was like, oh, that's cool, thanks, you know. Yeah, I kind of heard about it. But I'm sure Rhonda's going to play the gig, so I don't know, you know. And that's what I would tell people.
I would have presumed the exact same thing.
Yes, absolutely. So my sister called, and she was always calling about different things that were happening that had nothing to do with bass, but she was so excited about the Beyonce thing. And I was like, nah, you know, I don't think that she's looking for me. And then I had a couple of friends who came over to my house. And in that time, I was in producer mode. I was writing an album, and I was deeply entrenched in Pro Tools. Deeply.
Which takes up a lot of brain space.
Oh my goodness, brain space, and I was so into it. And I wasn't really, the outside world, I didn't have anything to do with it. So they came over and they said, you know Beyonce's having auditions. I was like, I know, man. Everybody keeps calling me and telling me this. You know, they were like, are you going to go? I was like, why? No. I already know who's going to get it. You know, I can name the whole band.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you should really go. And I was like, man, I don't think I should go. And they said, well, we're not going to leave your house until you say you're going to go. And they sat on my couch and started flipping the TV, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back in the other room and finish, you know,
Pro Tools.
my Pro Tools situation. And they were there for a while, and I came back, I was like, you guys are still here? And they were like, yeah, seriously, we're not going to leave.
Protesting.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, man, I'll go. I will go do it. And I think it was in 2 days. I'll go. And
did you get a song sent that you had to learn specifically?
well, I think, I don't remember.
Or was
Yeah,
it
there was
jam?
a song. What song was it? Work It Out. It was that song. And I went and bought a DVD and listened to the live arrangement of it. And I actually walked into this. The funny thing was, the moment that I really decided I was going to go, I walked into this store that I never go into, and that I hadn't been in since I was a very little girl. It was a store that I used to walk from my elementary school to a chorus rehearsal at another elementary school. And we used to stop in this store where we would buy candy and snacks before we got to the rehearsal. And I walked in there for some reason randomly, and on the newsstand was a newspaper. And the newspaper was turned to the page that said, Beyonce is looking for an all-female shit.
Right.
And I looked at the paper as I was buying a soda or something, and I was like, okay.
It's a sign.
It's a sign.
I get it. I'm
get
gonna
it.
go. And I stopped and said, okay, I'm gonna go. So it was
that.
really funny. So we got the song Work It Out, and there was a big audition in Atlanta. I went to the audition in Atlanta originally. And CNN was there at the time, which is so funny, and they asked if they could follow me around the audition.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, sure, why not, I guess.
Come on.
And they did, and they filmed, and they did a small interview with me afterwards. And then that night, late that night, I got a call and this guy said, you're gonna go to New York. Can you go to New York? You've passed the first round of auditions. And I was like, okay. Now, I was still in this mindset where I was kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, like, I wasn't really attached to having the gig at all. And I got to New York, and we started going through rounds of auditions, and throughout that process I started wanting to be in the band, and I started wanting to, you know, started seeing that this was really real, and this was something that was really happening, and especially when she showed up, and with Jay, and it was like, wow, this is serious. And
which, as a rapper with Jay-Z being there as well, it's
oh
gotta be like,
you know, I wanted to rap so bad.
Like, never mind the
bass
bass
just
playing.
be like, you know, I'm a rebel, won't you put it in the baby, you know. But and I had this whole conversation in my head. You should just bust out rebel, like
just stick it in there.
Like, no, man, they're not looking for that. They're looking for a bass player. You have to be a bass player. So it was really interesting because playing that gig was the first time that I was really a bass player. It taught me, you know, what it meant to be a bass player and to play the role of a bass player, because I think through my whole career as a bass player, it was always coupled with me being an artist and an MC. So it was really a learning experience and an incredible experience.
So tell us about I'm interested that Beyonce is such a big production. Tell us about the rehearsals. Does the band, and now that you've got the gig, are the band rehearsing for a while without Beyonce and she's coming in later that afternoon? Is she there from the start? Are you with the dancers right from the start? How does it all come together?
Well, there was so much material to learn because she had already had a solo album, and she had, you know, Destiny's Child was huge, so we had to learn a lot of songs. So right after we got the gig, we were going to do the BET Awards the next week, and then she was putting out a new record, and we were playing Deja Vu. So we spent a lot of time playing one song over and over and over and over and over. And then we had to learn how to dance and play it, you know, so that was a learning experience. We had to learn this little dance move, you know. So we spent a lot of time without her, and then she would come in. I don't know how long we were in LA before she came in, maybe a few days. And she came in, and we basically worked on the arrangement for Deja Vu, one song, because we were playing it at the BET Awards. And then afterwards, I think we flew to New York and started rehearsing for what was going to be the tour. And that's when we spent a lot of time. We would rehearse for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes longer, it depends. She would come in, usually the later part of the day, but not every day. The first tour, though, I think we saw her a lot. She was really excited about the band, of course. So, you know, we spent a lot of time with her. We really hashed out as a band with Kim Burse, who was the creative director and who was the main musical director. She, along with the band and Beyonce, we spent a lot of time figuring out what that show was going to be like, the B-Day show. And I think that you could see that when you see the show. And there was a lot of love, a lot of energy, a lot of sweat. Oh my gosh.
How did you cross paths with any of the other musicians before, or was it all new?
No, we didn't know each other. Most of us didn't know each other.
Because it was a worldwide audition, right?
Yeah, we all lived in different parts of the country, but we were all the same girl in the band, in different bands. You know, we were usually the only female in the band. Yeah. So it was awesome to be around a bunch of women who had the same type of experiences, and they were incredible women. And for me, it was so incredible because I had never been in a band situation like that. Where I was a bass player in a band. So this was my first real experience, you know. Even with Victor, I wasn't his bass player. I was, you know, an MC. I played bass. I did background music. Yeah, I was featured, and you know, I was pushing my own thing and selling my own CDs, and you know, trying to get my own thing, you know, off the ground. And I went into this situation for the first time on a really huge stage as a bass player. So I used to have these conversations with myself at night. I used to sleep with my bass guitar. I had a lot of catching up to do, you know? Yeah, these girls had been touring and playing with different people, and they had been, you know, the drummer in different bands, the keyboard player in different bands, the horn player. And I hadn't had that experience, so I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. And I studied my butt off. Kerr was the musical director and bass player before I got the gig.
Wow.
So that was a lot of pressure because
Right.
he is amazing.
A monster.
So they're learning all of his tunes and his arrangements, and so.
Was it very strict with the arrangements? I'm curious about that. Was it like your own interpretations, or was it like these are the written bass lines, this is exactly what you have to play?
No, they were pretty flexible. I mean, after you learned it and you played it for so long a certain way, you started to, or I started to, put my personality into it, and then songs became, the way I played them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really cool. But it was. I remember, man, I was sweating.
It's always
really
good when you
serious.
are.
Yeah,
That's
it was
killer.
really awesome.
But it's strange because we were watching the video earlier. It seems like, well, certainly your interpretation was it watching that YouTube clip where you're doing a kind of 8 to 10 minute solo when it's you.
Oh.
It seems like you're the one that's been in the band the longest, because you seem the
Fit
most
so perfectly.
confident and everything. So how did that come to fruition? Essentially, that solo. Did you put that together yourself? Was that something that happened
It was a
organically?
collaboration. Well, like I said, Beyonce was really excited about having this band. She had wanted an all-female band for a long time, and she handpicked everybody.
That's
She
cool.
actually sat down and chose everybody for different reasons, and she wanted to feature everybody. That was one of her things. I remember her coming into rehearsal. We thought we were pretty much done with the show, and she was like, I want everybody to take a solo. And we were like, oh my God, she wants us all to take a solo, And so, we had to figure out where that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And my solo was the last solo. And
The show while it was running.
yeah, while we were working it out, rehearsing.
Oh.
I thought I was going to get away with not having to do anything. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna be invisible back here and just But she came in and she was like, all right, Divinity, for your solo, I want you to do a collage of different songs. And I was like, whoa, what songs? I don't know. And she was like, take some of your favorite bass lines and we'll put a collage together. So, I started working on it, and some songs got cut and some songs were added, and she had the final say on what songs I played and how it flowed and the length of it and everything. But I think I took the approach that I would play some of my favorite bass lines that I had not grown up playing, but when I started playing bass, these are the bass lines that I played.
They meant something to you.
They meant something to me. Goody Mob and Outkast
Killer.
were some of my favorite groups,
Outkast,
growing up in
amazing
Atlanta.
bass line.
So I had to, of course, put those bass lines in there. And
A slice of home.
absolutely. And I think everything was really hip-hop related, actually.
Right.
I mean, and I've seen a lot of people give me a hard time about that bass solo too. And I mean, for what it was a crowd pleaser.
Absolutely.
Everybody loved it.
Yeah,
I was so surprised, and I was so nervous every single night. It was
Really?
time to go to it. Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
You need to go run through some of the bass lines that you
Oh
played.
man!
Give us an example.
That bass line was so important to us in Atlanta. When Goody Mob dropped that song, we were like, wow, that was cool. I think Preston Crump played on that one. I think he did. And then just so fresh and so clean, so to be able to go around the world and play those bass lines, I mean, it was pretty fun and awesome.
And it speaks a lot for Beyonce as well, the fact that because I would imagine, I think a lot of people would be like, nothing can take away from myself, I'm the main performer, but the fact that she's so encouraging of making sure that you've got your solo and everybody's got their own section of the show, that's brilliant.
She is awesome like that, she is definitely awesome like that. But you said something that I wanted. You said that it seemed like I was the the most experienced in the band. I was the most experienced on stage, I think. I'd been on stage performing for so long. I love to perform.
Yeah.
I do. It's a cleansing of some sort.
I hear you.
Where I can just let it all hang out and just release everything on stage in front of a bunch of people and not feel any way about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I tend to do that, and I need that because I'm in my head most of the time. So I have
to get out of your head.
I have to get out of my head. Yes.
If you could be on stage 24/7.
Well, that might not be a great thing, but
never worry.
I do look forward to performing. And I think I was a performer before I was a bass player. So having picked up bass late in the game, I think, you know, I was able to become comfortable with being on stage.
You came to California originally studying something completely different, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I went to UC Berkeley to become a journalist.
I love that. And
ended up playing the bass with a bunch of kids. You know, when I left Atlanta, I was an MC, hadn't thought about the bass guitar at all, and had really given up the idea that I was gonna be, you know, an MC anymore. You know, it's like, okay, I got into one of the best schools in the country.
Yeah.
I'm one of the first, if not the first, to go to a 4-year university, and in my family, and to go to a university of that caliber.
Exactly.
So I have to be serious about my life now.
Mm-hmm. Time for a real.
It's time to be real, you know, and I have to give up those things that you know that I enjoyed as a kid. You know, rapping and writing rhymes and feeling like I had something important to say, and I could, you know, parlay that into being a journalist. You know, so okay, I'll still be able to, you know, get my thing off as far as being creative. But of course, you find people, and people find you when you're of the same cloak or spirit or whatever. And I found these people who were musicians and artists, and we just started, you know, freestyling, and we started having these parties at my house, and I was like the MC, and I would like be the MC of the cypher, and, you know, pass the mic around, and we would have this guy, Paris, who had an upright bass. His boy would come play the drums, and we would have a DJ, and we would just be up in this loft, like, partying, you know, all night. And then we went in the studio, and we started, you know, wanting to record some music and stuff, and I was like, man, I'm back to making music again. And I used to hang out with Paris all the time, and I told him, I was like, man, you know, I think I want to play something. I was like, I think I want to play guitar. He's like, nah, you should play bass. I was like, why? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, guitar is it's more popular anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody plays guitar. It's like, yeah.
World needs more bass players.
Yeah, I want to play guitar, man, you know. And he's just like, nah, man, you should play the bass. He's like, you have this whole bass, your vibe is a bass player vibe. You don't have a guitar player vibe. So I was like, okay, well, I wasn't attached to it. I just said, okay, well, I'll go home for the summer, and I'll buy a bass guitar. He's like, well, if you bring a bass guitar back, I'll show you some stuff. And that's what I did. I went home for the summer and bought a bass, and came back to school, and I fell in love with it. I really did, and I wasn't doing anything but this.
Getting your fingers working, yeah.
That's all I would do. I would come home from school and do that, and then, you know, to turn on whatever records, you know, that were playing at the time, and, you know, that's when I started learning the Good Mob and Outkast, and started actually learning those songs on
You're
bass.
completely self-taught, pretty much.
Yes, in the beginning, absolutely, and then and I had a hip hop group back home, so I have to say that I wasn't a bass player yet. I just fell in love with it, and it was my private, personal thing that nobody knew that I did when I went home from
Secret
school.
bass player.
Yeah, or, you know, except like my people are like, do you know what song this is? And they'd be like, no, I don't know what song that is. You can't hear it, you know. So I went home to really call my dad and said, Dad, you know, I have to do music. I have to. I need just a year. You know, my hip hop group, I just left them. I have to go back, and we have to give it a shot. We have to give it a real shot. And we did, and we opened up for some really cool bands that came in town. we were the group that opened up for everybody. It was called fBoo, and we're a little bit part of Atlanta history when it comes to hip hop. We started our own record label. We pressed up our own music. We sold our own music. You know, we were gonna make it. You know, on our own. You know, we didn't need a record label. We didn't need anything. And so we did that for a while, and I still was secretly at home, you know, playing bass here and there. And my uncle gave me all this equipment, 4-track recorders, and this HR-16 beat machine. And I had this little corner in my dad's house, and I would come home, because I would stay out late every night, of course. Come home late, 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to make a beat, trying to put music together, and just, you know, trying to figure it out. And eventually I did figure it out, you know, through a long series of circumstances. I ruptured my Achilles tendon and couldn't play with my hip-hop group anymore. And after I did that, I changed. My life changed. Everything changed. I didn't want to be in the group anymore. I wanted to focus more on bass guitar because that's all I could do with my ruptured Achilles. And I just started listening to Marcus Miller, and a friend of mine gave me the Victor Wooten CD. And I had all these friends, these musician friends I would call and say, man, what is a triad? What is a circle of fifths? And what does it mean, you know? These degrees, and what is a mode? I don't get this mode thing. Can you explain this mode thing? And my friends, they used to just laugh at me and say, you're going to be okay because you bugged the shit out of us. I actually went to college with Keven Mingus, Charlie Mingus' grandson.
Oh my God, wow.
And I used to call him and ask him all these
fantastic
questions.
What would Mingus say?
He just would laugh at me. He just would giggle and
fantastic.
Say, you're going to be fine.
That's wonderful.
You need to tell us a story as to how you managed to get Bootsy Collins on your solo record.
Unbelievable.
We were hanging out in Germany. Bootsy became a Warwick artist.
Yes.
And we were having these crazy Warwick parties at Messe, Music Messe. We had this huge stage. You guys ever been to Messe?
Yeah.
So Messe's crazy. Music Messe is like NAMM, but it's in Germany.
Right.
And it's like the European NAMM. And Hans Peter, who was the president of Warwick, would have a huge booth with a huge stage, and we would just jam all day.
All the Warwick artists.
All the Warwick artists. We would just get up there and party and jam. And Bootsy was jamming, and I was jamming, and we were having fun. And I don't know. We just took a liking to each other. And I asked him, you know, would you do this little thing on my album? And he said, yeah, send it to me. And he did it and sent it back. And I chopped it up and we threw it on the album. Did it, baby. I always wanted to hear him say that. Did it, baby. You know.
Well, that's pretty cool. I don't think there's many bass players that can say they had, you know, Bootsy Collins on their record, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Bootsy is such a really good spirit, and he has an incredible story. He's taken an incredible journey, and he's a legend.
He really is.
So it's been really crazy to be in the company of all these legendary people. You know, Larry Graham, I think we jammed together on stage. Of course, Victor and Steve Bailey and Jonas. And, I mean, being a part of the Warwick family, I've come in contact with a lot of incredible people.
It clearly is a family, like you're saying.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's a family-run business, and so he just extends that family to all these bass players.
Because you must, at your level, be, like, approached a lot by all the companies. But why did you decide to go at Warwick? Was it like they got you, or you went for them?
You know, it's so funny because I was playing a different bass, and Jonas, I knew Jonas from being on tour with Victor. I met Jonas with Victor years before, and I was walking around NAMM by myself, and he was promoting his amps, and he asked me if I had an amp endorsement, and I think at the time Ampeg was switching over from Ted Kornblum to somebody else. I think he sold the company. So I wasn't sure what my relationship with Ampeg was like anymore. And so I was like, no, I don't have an endorsement anymore. So I'm interested. I'll listen to your amps. And so I played it and I liked it, and he sent me one. And he's like, you know, what do you think about the basses? And I was like, no, you know, I'm fine with my bass company. I'm not really, you know, trying to leave. And I don't know what happened. When did I think they were just so nice. They were just so awesome. And meeting Hans and they were so family oriented and he just, you know, he sent me a bass, and I liked it, and I started playing it, and he asked me what I wanted to do different to it, and nobody had ever spent that type of time with me except my very first my very first endorsement was with Jane McNall at Modulus. Not many people remember Jane, but she was so awesome. I met her, and I sat down at her booth at NAMM and just started playing, and she looked at me and she said, "I want to make you a bass." I was like, "What?"
Custom.
Yeah, she's like, "I want to make you a bass. What color? What color do you want?" I was like, "Can we make it red?" She's like, "Yeah." And she pulled out this book and she's like, "Tell me what you want on it," and all this stuff. And I couldn't believe it. I was touring with Victor at the time, and she actually sent me a bass guitar. And I mean, it was really just a heart-to-heart transmission or some sort of interaction. And I think the same thing happened with Warwick. You know?
It was just right. Get her.
So where can we find you online?
I'm at DivinityRoxx.com. Yes. I'm also on Twitter at DiviRoxx. I'm on Instagram at DiviRoxx. I'm on Facebook, Divinity Roxx. ROXX.
Google you?
You can, yeah.
Just Google. She's everywhere.
I don't know what happens when you Google me. There's no telling.
And your upcoming show?
Yes, I have a show coming up at the Game Sports Bar in Inglewood, 5630 Manchester Avenue, I think. We're gonna do some I Only Rock Hip Hop, so go to IOnlyRockHipHop.com. Pick a song off the list, spend some time with it, jump up on stage with us, have some fun. We gave away prizes. We gave away Monster headphones last time.
Wow.
We gave away some CDs and earrings and T-shirts, and it's just a fun thing. I want to turn this I Only Rock Hip Hop thing into a live TV game show. So it's kind of like I'm working it out on stage. I like to work everything out on stage.
Yeah, I love that.
My new songs, I work them out on stage. This machine, any new equipment
First time
I get,
to use it.
I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna work it out on stage. But that's how I came up. I came up working everything out on stage. But when I would write a song, I would say, okay, I'm gonna go down to the club and see how people respond to it. That's crazy.
I love that shit.
I'm not as bold as that anymore. Now I'm a little bit shyer.
I'll practice it first.
No, well, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go, because we've got a bunch of questions. We haven't used any of them.
I'm sorry, I've
just
been talking and talking.
No, absolutely not. It's been great, but we'll need to get you on for a part 2 as well at some point, because we have not even scratched the surface. But it's been cool.
You have so many awesome stories. Awesome.
Oh man, I do have some stories.
You really are. I love
that's
that
for
it's
the
a
book.
series of events.
That's
Exactly, that's for the book.
We'll do the forward on the
Yeah,
book.
I love
the
it.
book one day. Oh my goodness.
I really love though that your story kind of is like you said earlier, a series of events that happen, because you know what Hollywood is like. A lot of us come here as musicians for let's follow the dream out here and looking for the auditions, but sometimes it's just meant to be. Like you can chase it and chase it and chase it, but sometimes it's just a series of events. Like
it is a series, yeah. Everything is, and it's funny because even now I'm writing my new album. I'm not touring. And I'm back in that place where I'm like, whoa, my God, what am I doing?
Hustle.
What am I doing? You're crazy.
Life and music and
shit. Gosh. And,
you did a tour with a Korean band, didn't you?
That was really
That's
fun.
what I was asking
2NE1. They were so much fun. It was so different. Korean pop music. I had no idea. And
What were they singing?
Naga chi cha la ga. I am the best. That was one of the songs. But it's funny because it was one of those things that I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go on tour with the Korean pop band. And a friend of mine called. Was like, can you put a band together for this tour? And I was like, yeah, I'll put a band together for you, and I'll help you guys arrange the music and put the show together. But I don't think I'm gonna go on the tour. And she's like, you don't want to go on the tour? And I was like, no, I'll get you guys a bass player, and you wanted an all-female band. And then eventually she kind of talked me into doing it. And 2 weeks later, we were in Korea. in Seoul, literally. Yeah, it was crazy. We put this tour together in like 3 weeks tops.
Killer.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I was so stressed out. Oh my, 14-hour, 15-hour days. Not sleeping, the songs are changing, the arrangements are changing, the choreography is changing, and as soon as anybody makes one little change, it has to go back to the music has to change, because we're on a grid,
you're gridded, yeah.
When you do a tour like that, you're on a grid. This isn't jazz music.
No, it's all gridded.
We're playing with tracks, and there's Pro Tools, and then there's the band, and there's some cuts and edits and
domino effect.
Oh my goodness! But the choreographers don't understand that. The lighting people don't get it. But the video people, they're like, okay, we're gonna switch this video. Okay, well we gotta switch everything over here now, guys. The video is now 2 minutes and 12 seconds as opposed to 3 minutes. Okay, well, we have to switch some things up, guys, you know. So it was insane, but we pulled it off, and I worked with a great crew of musicians who were pretty much, they were awesome. They were so awesome because it was very different. We didn't have techs. We had one tech for the whole band.
No way.
There was a language barrier.
Oh, I was going to say, did you have a translator for your tech?
Oh my goodness.
I've had that problem in China before.
Yeah. You don't have time.
Point at stuff.
You're like, oh my God, the kick drum is killing me, and you has to go through a translator. The song is over.
God.
You're deaf.
Before you get the change, you flip your ears out. You can't hear anything. You're still trying to play the song.
Yeah.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was intense.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was just 3 weeks the tour and then home.
Well, no, we toured for half a year or a year,
wow.
but they spaced it out so far.
Okay.
We went to we were in Seoul. We played LA, actually. We played Japan. We played Singapore, which is really cool. I think we played a couple of other places. I don't remember, but the preparation was 3 weeks. And then, of course, you know, once you're on tour, you tweak the show and you rehearse and you flip it, and then you have to do more edits. And it was crazy.
That's going to make a great chapter in the book, that one.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It was the same thing would happen with on the Beyonce tour too, man. I mean, we made so many changes. We were always making changes. You know, you have to see what works and what doesn't, and even after you put the show in front of a live audience, you make the changes again.
Different countries, different audiences, huge difference.
Absolutely. Some songs work in some countries, some songs don't. Some arrangements work. You know, shortening the Destiny's Child medley, lengthening the Destiny's Child medley, changing the songs within the Destiny's Child medley, because you can't get away from doing the Destiny's Child medley.
Of course, everyone wants to hear it.
There's all these records that she played on that she can't even remember herself. I think I played on it. It was either me or James that played on that one, and by James, of course, is referring to James Jamerson, you know.
Either me or James Jamerson.
Honestly, I think James that day.
But it's incredible. It's incredible. But she's played in so many of the Addams, even some of the Addams Family theme, Mission Impossible.
Yeah, Mission Impossible.
We're kind of a little bit borderline obsessed with
Pet Sounds. Come on, she played on Pet Sounds. It's just scary.
She's the first one, you know. She
is.
She has done it all, and she's somebody that we all look up to. Like, wow, you know. But for me, as a person who came to the bass so late, I had no idea. It took me a while before I even knew who she was and how impactful she had been, you know, to the bass guitar, to the industry. So, I mean, I have nothing but the utmost respect and adoration, and like, I couldn't even imagine being in the same room with her. I'd be so nervous and like, you know, because she has so much music, so much knowledge, so much experience. She broke down a lot of doors and a lot of barriers that, you know, that gives me the opportunity to walk into a room as a female bass player and people have some semblance of confidence in that I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Because I can only imagine the things that she had to experience. Oh my God.
Do you think it's quite common that a lot of people, even at this stage, don't know who karaoke is? I mean, I think generally
maybe young bass players. I mean, it's tough when you first, you know, when you first decide to do something. That's your first experience with it. I'm gonna go buy a bass guitar. Okay, it just came out of the blue. I'm gonna go buy a bass guitar. I'm gonna sit with it, and I'm gonna try to figure out how to play it, and how it feels, and what to do. You know what to do, and then you start to meet people who start teaching you. You have to meet the teachers, and you have to start doing the research. I think it's funny because as a woman, it's so funny because a lot of times people say, oh, as a woman, as a female musician or as a female bass player, you know, X, Y, and Z, but I don't think about myself as a woman every day. You know, I'm a woman. I'm a woman who plays the bass guitar. No, I just think, this is what I want to do, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you when you start encountering certain things, then you start thinking, oh wow, people are responding to me that type of way. Why? why? I'm just a human being doing something. And then you start looking at the history of things. Then you start going back and learning. You know, when I first started playing, I didn't know many bass players. I only knew Marcus Miller and Victor Wooten.
Yeah.
You know, but upon meeting different people who say, hey, have you listened to this person? And do you know this person? Have you listened to this song? And do you know this piece of music? You know, so you start to learn that way. So I think that, in the beginning, you may not know who Carol Kay is. It's not like Michael Jackson, or, you know, she's not in the front.
It's not mainstream, exactly.
Yeah, she's not mainstream. And there's so many people like that as musicians who are not mainstream, but who are so important
Geniuses
to
behind
music.
it all.
Oh, she really has got incredible knowledge. Is there anything you want us to ask her? And if you can't think of anything tonight.
We're going to her house on Friday.
You're going to our house?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want to come?
I do. Yes. Man.
Just fill the car full of bass players.
Yeah, we've got basically a lot of
all the bass players want to go.
We're all going to be there just hanging outside.
I know it's going to be because you.
I would just like to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for doing the work. Because it is a lot of work.